Educators! My name is Sophia Mitchel and I'm the owner and founder of LabTots, or my students usually refer to me as Prof. I'm based in the UK between London and Cambridge, and I'd love to welcome you to Inarc Power Talks. I'm honoured to be standing here talking to you today about the way we think about things and how we can then go beyond the activity to bring really deep, enriching and meaningful educational experiences to all the children that we teach. I'm really excited to be talking to you today about the benefits of science and STEM in education. Now, I myself, as Prof and LabTots, specialise in science education from children as young as 2 years old, right the way through primary and beyond. Science methodologies and STEM education has a broader reach than purely teaching science. And what I want to be able to stand here and talk to you about today is how we can use the principles of science methodology, analytical thinking, problem solving, to really ignite that lifelong love of learning that we have. We as educators are constantly looking for ways to improve, to embrace, to enrich and diversify the things that we are teaching in order to give amazing educational experiences to the children that we teach. Now, one way that I've personally found doing this is by looking at the way we think. How we think and how we can then go beyond the activity that we're undertaking. By doing that and stretching those activities by asking some simple coaching style questions, we can then really enrich and deepen those meaningful interactions that we have in the classroom. Now, the world as we know it is completely and utterly intertwined. Everything is interlinked. So why then do we consistently continue to educate in discrete entities? I started LabTots because I saw that there was a need. STEM and science education was missing from early years. Now, that's not because early years cannot comprehend, and that's not because I completely believe wholeheartedly in science and STEM over everything else. But what I do believe and what I know to be true is that by using scientific methodology and the way we look at things, the way we question, the way we analyse, that actually is a really powerful tool that we can use in educational settings to really get the most out of everything that we are teaching. Certainly within the UK and in a number of other countries, education seems to be ruled by standardised testing, standardisations, national curriculums, which from their inception are incredibly admirable. What I personally feel is that over time we have completely lost the connection between its inception and where we are today. Providing every child with a base foundation level across the board is an amazing thing. However, when we start looking at those activities purely as tick the boxes and milestones for those children to achieve, we start to miss the joy of learning. We start to impose that very formulaic way onto our children that misses the whole beauty of the learning journey and the thing that actually that's what we need to be educating them in to turn them into these amazing adults that are going to lead us in the future. The world we live in is global. It's more connected now than it's ever been. Everything is interconnected. It's the butterfly effect. If something happens in one place or in one system, it can have a massive, almost inexplicable effect in something we didn't even comprehend. So why then are we still teaching children in discrete entities? We teach them English, we teach them maths, we teach them science, we teach them PE, But where's that multidisciplinary, cross-functional approach? Now, I love that idea of project-based learning, where we take something and then do the amazing offshoots to really provide mass enrichment. But I also appreciate that from an educator's standpoint, it can be incredibly overwhelming. I mean, where do you start? Where do you stop? What are all the bits in between and how do I connect? You could almost go off in infinite directions. And we've only got a few hours in which to communicate that. So how do we do it? Well, we don't have to do everything. The idea is to take one thing, one big idea, one purpose, and then map out where we could possibly go. And ideally, if we're doing our job fantastically, is to provide that facilitation and that coaching to the children that we educate, that they can take that idea and run with it. One technique that I find really helpful when looking at all those interconnectivities and to try and work out which direction I want to take the class is mind mapping. A very, very simple technique, but one that allows you to go and explode your ideas all over the page and then come back and reflect which ones and how we can interconnect them. Now, it might be from that big mind map stage that you actually find that there is a certain activity that bridges all of those gaps in one hit. Now, to me, that's not only enriching for us as educators, but obviously for the children we teach, but it's also incredibly efficient. Why would you want to teach one thing and get one thing out of it if you can teach one thing and get a plethora? Another thing that as educators we can find quite overwhelming is the fact that we're looked at to be the fountains of knowledge. Now, in today's society, where we have knowledge at the click of a button at our fingertips, never before have we ever been in a point where information is so readily available and accessible. So gaining knowledge is no longer the obstacle that it once was. In today's society, we now need to be teaching our children how to assess that knowledge. Is it a fact? Is it opinion? Is it authentic? Is it accurate? How can we assess that to make sure that the information that they are researching and they are being delivered is the information that it says it is? So if our role as educators no longer needs to be the fountain of all knowledge, where does that leave us? Our role as future educators is really as coaches and facilitators. As 21st century educators is to coach and to facilitate and to spark, to provide the ignition for those educational experiences that our children can then run with and develop. What we need to do is to be able to nurture and ask those questions and to show the children that we educate how to go and find out that information, how to research, how to ask the questions, where to go to find those solutions. Does it make sense? Is it logical? Spark their imagination, bring out their thoughts and their feelings, engage them in the co-creation of the work that you're doing.
It's okay
not to know the answer. It's okay to say, do you know what? I don't know. But what a brilliant question you've just asked. I tell you what, how do you think we would find out? Where do you think we would go to find that answer to the question? Do you think there's an experiment that we could do, something to try? It might not work, but should we give it a go? Can you see how suddenly, by changing our mentality from just the givers of factual content, we then start to engage more with the children. We develop our learning. The children can see that it's okay to fail. It's okay not to know. This is a learning journey that never ever stops. You're never going to get to that point of divine clarity, or at least I don't think you do, because there is always something new. There's always a new discovery. There's always something that we didn't even realise before that then changes our world. This allows the children to create that growth mindset. And that's where we as educators are the facilitators of that journey. By using scientific principles and methodologies, that also helps us with that coaching style, that ability to question and to say, why do you think that happens? The ability to investigate, the ability to analyse the information or the data that you have discovered yourself, what that might mean, to come up with your own theories. Now at this stage, and especially when we're teaching really, really little children, the actual factual answer, it's not irrelevant because we don't want to mislead them, but equally, it's not the be all and end all. The most important thing is to get them thinking, to get them engaged, and to keep that enrichment. Another thing that we learn as scientists very early on is failure. Now I laugh because the vast majority of scientific experiments does end in failure. Now failure isn't bad, and it's also something that we know we need to overcome, and we need to build resilience. So by bringing in that scientific methodology, we're allowing children to fail, to analyse what went wrong, what went right, what would we do differently next time, what have we learnt from that. So failure is never a negative thing. It might not be where we intended it to be or where we ideally wanted to get to, but we've learnt something from that experience, and that is incredibly valuable. If we can impart that into children and build their resilience from the word go, how much stronger will we be as adults? When we're undertaking science activities with little children, we know that there are going to be things that they are going to find challenging. Even if that's using fine motor skills when we're doing pipetting activities that again are going to be useful for building things like their ability to mark make, their ability to write. All of those things are so important. But then why not, rather than just teaching them to hold a pencil or getting them to colour in, why not add to that? Why not enrich? Why not deepen that activity by using pipettes, by doing potions, by working out those chemical reactions? We're then adding layer upon layer upon layer that at a very basic point, they are increasing their skills and their fine motor skills. They're also utilising the left and the right side of their brain, which is further developing them. We know that they're going to struggle with certain activities. So then we build in those coping strategies and teach them those before we even begin the activity to prepare them for what they might be encountering. So that could be something as simple as a breathing technique. One thing I've done in lab tots is when I know that I'm going to be pushing the children, I'm going to be challenging their current state of ability, I then do a bit of role play. And we start to look and say, now I think we might end up feeling a little bit frustrated. And when we feel frustrated, we want to go, "Arr!" Don't you, children? And then we all go, "Arr!" So when we feel that, "Arr!" what do you think we need to do? And we engage the children. And often they will be, we need to calm down. Absolutely, fantastic. So how might we do that? And can you see how we're then building in those coaching style questions at every single opportunity to provide every single opportunity for those children to co-create and be part of that educational experience. Then we come up with a strategy that works. Now, sometimes or most of the time it will be breathing in, breathing out, and we do some practice and we mimic one another and we do mirroring. Another thing is we might want to breathe in for 3 and breathe out for 5. So we're increasing their counting skills and their numbers. And in that, we've also added in that health, wellness and well-being and that strategy that if they do start feeling frustrated, they have a coping mechanism. They have a coping strategy. And then lo and behold, you provide them with that challenge. And as soon as they start to feel that rising in, it's amazing. You see them put things down. Do their breathing activities, pick the work up and continue. And that's an amazing thing to watch in action, especially with children as young as 3. So how else can we look at an activity and go beyond it? So if we start with our mind map and we've got our big idea in the centre and we've got these offshoots. So for the sake of argument, let's take an example. Let's take colours. Now, the big idea here is that we want our 3 to 5-year-olds to be able to identify and recognise all the colours. Now you could do painting, mixing, bring in primary, secondary colours. We can look at rainbows. Rainbows then allows us to start looking at the weather. It allows us to start looking at light. It allows us to start looking at the primary colours of light are quite different to the primary colours in paints. And what do we get when we combine all the colours of light? We get white. There's loads of experiments that we can do, and we can look at prisms and we can look at physics. Then we start to look at waves, and where we can build these activities is then gamify it. We want gamification, we want storification, we want the children to be really part of the learning that they are undertaking. Now, if we look at the rainbow and we look at waves, every wave is different. We've got big slow ones, like red, then orange, then yellow, then green, then blue, and then super fast purple! Now, if we start doing those activities with the children, not only are they suddenly getting moving, which is then increasing the blood flow to their brain, they're using both their left and their right hemispheres. If we start to cross the midline by doing our rainbow patterns, then we're engaging all of those neurotransmitters inside our brain to really start firing off and getting the best out of those activities. The children are laughing, they are having fun. That's producing oxytocin that is opening up the world to them. So if we can include some of those games that then increase that oxytocin, we're onto a winner. And colour and paints, we can then start exploring the history. Where did dyes come from? Where did pigments come from? How do they get used? We can start looking at artwork through the ages. We can also start looking at the science of it. Have we got natural things? What natural things can we use to make colour, to make pigments? Can we go out and explore outside? Can we find, what happens with grass? What colour is grass? Grass is green. Can we get the green out of grass? Can we paint using the things we find outside? Suddenly, this one idea has shot into this amazing multidisciplinary approach that you don't have to cover in just one session. It can be a programme of activities. But within that one topic area, you've been able to cover all of those different things. When we want to get the children working together and teamwork and collaboration and cooperation, we can look at mixing, but we can also look at unmixing. Another fantastic activity that I do in Lab Tots is I have a parachute, and we pretend that the parachute is the white light. I do love a ball pit ball. They are very, very versatile, and I have them in all the colours of the rainbow. Now what we do is we mix all the colours of the rainbow together to form the white light. But then we want to unmix it like the raindrops, and we start by waving. I think you can see where this is going now, can't you? So we start to shake the parachute, and we do different waves. We do big waves, and we do short, fast waves. And while we're waving the parachute, the balls are flying everywhere, and the children are having such fun, and there's laughter and giggles and oxytocin going, mental. And then once all the balls and all the colours have been unmixed, we then start to categorise. And the children then go round and start to collect all of the balls and put them back into their discrete entities. So we have a bowl of red, a bowl of yellow, a bowl of orange, etc. And they start working together. And they're like, oh, look down there, oh, go and get the red one there. So they're identifying the colours, they're helping one another out. If one of them puts them in the wrong thing, they will help and move it over. So we're constantly looking and analysing and correcting, but in a very gentle way, where we're not saying it's wrong. It's, oh, does that look right? What do you think we need to do? And they correct it. They've identified the error and they've amended it. So we go back to the big idea of recognising colour, and we've done it. But we haven't just gone, this is red, this is green, this is blue, this is purple. We've covered all of the other things as well. Now, whether the children retain everything that we've talked about, maybe, maybe not. But they'll have taken certain things from it. And I think you'll be surprised at how much they can take, especially when they're having such fun. When we go beyond the activity, where we ask those coaching questions, where we engage with the children and get them to co-create, that's where something really magical happens. It's been a real pleasure to be asked to talk to you today. I really hope you've enjoyed it and you've taken something positive from my talk. I'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions or you'd like to reach out, you can contact me at info@labtots.com, or you can message us on the website www.labtots.com, or you can follow us on social media. We've got labtots.preschool.science on Facebook. We're on Twitter @labtots, Instagram, labtots, you name it, labtot it out. It will be fantastic. So have a wonderfully, fabulously labtot-tastic rest of the day, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.